put a bit of light on the matter, methinks. It looks kind of spooky. Yes, I know I'm live. Right. I'll have to switch off this guy I'm listening to. Jay Smith. A critic of Islam. It's kind of interesting, some of the stuff he said. Yeah, I'm sitting here, and because of this lockdown situation, my whole sleep pattern's gone to pot, and I'm doing the usual with this remote control, try to find programs that don't exist, and desperately searching. I thought, what the dickens? And I started thinking about something that was said to me last week, and that got me going. I got the old brain matter shifted, and so I thought I'd come by you guys and run it by you, because it is all to do with Alcoholics Anonymous and the programme and the dilution of the message and people dying who don't really need to die, and people try to carry a message that they shouldn't be carrying. And it doesn't stand up to investigation. That's the most interesting thing. And I proved that. I met this young guy months ago, and he's only in his early 20s. His name's Joe. Comes from up where is it? Yeah. Up that way anyway, not too far from where I live. And he's young, right? And he claims to be recovered, fine. He talks about studying the book before doing the steps, not fine. Pointed it out to him, not interested, and quite stubborn about it. But in that kind of nice, patient understanding, that way these holy people are. And and that's the way it is. That's the way I perceive it. And they started up a meeting, Big Boots study meeting, and he invited me to the meeting. But he knows exactly how I feel about this kind of stuff. But I said, well, no, it'll be different. It'll be different, says he. And this is the little cons that they try to pull. They think they're stupid, They think they were born yesterday. So, okay, pal, it's your funeral. And it was to a certain degree, because I just blew it out of the water. And, well, why did you come? Because he invited me. That's why I came. And then he phoned me later, and he was really upset. Why are you upset? I told you what I was going to do. I told you what my reaction to it would be. And you say, no. And then it's all the denial stuff, Like that what do you call them? There was apostles, that apostle, the guy who denied Jesus so many times, or what was it, Thomas? I was Catholic and brought up in Catholic education, so I've got a vague knowledge of it. But bear with me. I'm just getting warmed up as well. See, I'm just getting warmed up. Pardon me. And yeah, so he phoned me. He phoned me as soon as I got home, actually, and he was really upset. I said, yeah, calm down. What's this? And tell him all about it. I said, you know how I feel about it. You know that there's nowhere in the book that it tells you that you study the book. If you're following the book and the clear-cut, precise instructions. Within those clear-cut, precise instructions, 103 pages, first 103 pages, there is no mention whatsoever of studying anything. All you're doing is taking steps. And I still won't get it. And that's really frustrating. Why are you doing this? It's there. What I'm saying to you is actual fact, and all you have to do is go and read the book. And this is the guy who takes people through the programme. Takes them through the study of the programme first. So it's worthwhile letting you know that I had experienced this before, 20 odd years ago, with a man who was at the meeting, this seat meeting or whatever it's called. He was there, and he knows exactly how I feel about it as well. Still, like, you owe me an apology. Well, I'll explain to you. He told me that I'd have to study the book, study the program before I took the steps. And this was after him keeping me waiting for months and months. But I'd already tried two nutters, shall I say. Complete opposite each other, poles apart, but the same dangerous stuff going on. And well, to be fair, Trevor had a bit of wisdom about him and said a few things that would really help, but nothing to do with the program. Nothing to do with the program. And I thank him for it. So yeah, this studying the book. Where does it say you study the program? Where in the first 103 pages does it? And he just ignored me. You know, you thinking, right, okay, thanks for that, John. Got you. And I appreciate that. That's doing me a bit wrong. And plus also the fact that most of the people when I was busy taking people through this program, most of the ones who had studied the program never finished it because they didn't see the point in it. What is it they ask you to do? I vaguely remember Words for God, which is pretty straightforward, I suppose. Higher power and stuff like that. And what was the other thing? You betters. Things that you better do. All right, okay. It seems as though it's in the book, so it's obvious that you're saying you better. And then there's a different one, you must. You have to look for all these and write them down, the page and write them down. All right, okay. And what was the other one? It was totally bizarre. And I struggled with it and I almost failed. But eventually I managed to get him to take me through the steps. Why didn't you just do this in the first place? You know? That's what I'm thinking, but I'm not saying it because you know what we're like. We just knew about and lack of self-esteem, lack of assertiveness, and if it's a choice between him being right or me being right, he's right and I'll be wrong because that's how it's been all my life. We all identify with that, don't we? So this was so therefore I'm not in the least bit happy about people who talk about studying the book, studying the program because it's not there. It's a book of instructions. You follow the instructions and you will get what they got. Read the book. So yeah, so it got me thinking tonight about this kind of stuff and how painful it must be for some people, and quite a lot of them relapse. Because you always hear about people relapse, the bad news carries fast, and some of them never come back. That's all because of these arrogant fools who think they know best. Young Joe told me, but this is a Dallas study. Yeah, so well, does that make it different? It's been going since the 80s. He's been going downhill since, well, did you get it? Clarence Snyder, 1985, I think it was, Hawaii. Somewhere fancy, Hawaii. And it was one of these get-togethers, convention. And there's Clarence Snyder. He would have been a fair age by then. What, 25 years. He'd been in the 60s, maybe 70s. And he stands up in front of these people and he says, I don't get newcomers anymore. I only get them when you lot screwed them up. Neurotic laughter. If you want this program, come to my house, you can have it in 2 days. And nothing from the crowd. No applause, no nothing. Because they didn't know what he was talking about. It's truly and utterly shocking. And this was in 85. Bill W. and maybe some others, the late 50s, early 60s, put together a lovely little tome. Can't remember where you can find it. Could be in more about alcohol. I'm not exactly sure where it is, but it reads sobriety, freedom from alcohol, through the practice and teachings of the 12-step recovery program, is the sole purpose of an AA meeting. No more, no less, nothing else. Practice and teaching of a 12-step recovery program. How do you teach a program? You take them through it. You take this is a program. Bump, bump, bump. This is what's going to happen. Bump, 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 bump. That's what a program is. Program for a television. Program for an opera performance. Ooh. Yeah, you got the program to see what's coming next, and that's it. Young Joe tried to make it, well, teaching, see, teachings. No, it's not study. It's not study, Joe. And it's amazing what they'll grasp onto. They'll grasp onto anything. You know, it's actually quite pathetic. And what it stinks of is illness and denial, you know. And this is one of the biggest parts of this illness is the denial that you've actually got it. The only illness that tells you don't have it. And here's young Joe. He's stick to his guns. Oh, you study the book first. No, you don't. Prove it. Show me. Show me. You know, this is it. Just show me where it says it. And really gets me upset. Really gets me upset. You've got to stop doing this. And of course, there was these powerful statements, Clarence Snyder and Dr. Bob and company, whatever. Seriously, why did Dr. Bill W. Why did they say sobriety, freedom? Why did they have to remind them about the sole purpose of a meeting? Because AA was going down the tube. There's all sorts of nutters starting up things, and there's that Hazeldean started up in America and all that counselling stuff, you know, and therapy. I'm in therapy. Hey, you know, it was really cool to be in therapy, especially for the actors in the Hollywood set and all that stuff. And it was truly shocking. Thus, think about with what they said. Too gentle, as far as I'm concerned. Far too gentle. But you know, there's one thing you don't do. You don't tell an alcoholic that they're wrong because they'll just dig their heels in, regardless how wrong they are. As it is with young Joe, who's just dug his heels in. You're totally wrong, and so are all the other people. I was at the meeting, as I said, and it was so utterly dull and boring and uninspiring. They didn't know what they were doing. Read this little bit, right? We'll study that. And what does it say? They have another book. They have a book. They've got the big book. Then they've got another book which helps you study the book. So they've got, you couldn't make it up. And this is supposed to be a simple program. It'd be okay if it was, I don't know, maybe the Quran or the Bible. So you're totally, yeah, you really have to have a look at that and see what's going on. Can't just assume this. But it's not. It's what it says. It states right at the beginning. You know, this is a simple program. There's other bits where it says that. Try to remember. But anyway, the point's made. You know, clear-cut, precise instructions. Why would you have to study clear-cut, precise instructions? You know, and if it's instructions, you follow the instructions. You know, they're changing the whole meaning of words and language and everything. You know, it's it's a simple program, and it's got clear-cut, precise instructions. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Thoroughly followed our path. So they've got to be able to do it thoroughly. Yes, because it's a simple program. It's like riding a bike. All right, okay, that's cool. Yeah, I can get to that. And you never forget it, do you? I'm 67 years of age, believe it or not. And I could jump on a bike and cycle. I've not done it for years, but I could do it. I'd probably fall off right enough because my legs aren't all they used to be. I've been ill for 3 years, can you imagine? And look how happy I am. Look how positive I am. How inspirational I am. I used to lie in the gutter, drunk, look down my nose at people. Ah, you think you're better than me, don't you? Yeah. Yeah, but there's no point trying to tell you that because you're an adult child and you're drunk. So you're in a waste of space. the most, perhaps the most reviled people, other than terrorists about blowing innocent people up, but perhaps the most reviled people on the planet are alcoholics because they're seen as being greedy and selfish and all of that stuff. And rightly so, because that's what they show to people. So there. How I got onto that, I don't know. We'll talk about the simplicity of the program and how they lay out clear-cut, precise instructions, and they lay them out for you. You know, they give you chapter 1. Chapter 1's Bill's story, isn't it? Yeah. I've got my book here. I came prepared this time. So there. Some of you sitting there saying he doesn't know what he's talking about. I do. I do. I used to know this thing inside out. Back to front and all of that exaggeration. Bill's story is chapter 1. Bill's story is just no more important, no more relevant than anybody else's story. In fact, I don't really know many. I've not met many kind of rich type, banker type, money type people as Bill was. I don't identify with them. Excuse me. But Bill had to get in there, so yeah, I'll do my story a wee bit of ego, whatever. Okay, fair enough. So we've got chapter 2, there is a solution. Chapter 2. And chapter 3. More about alcoholism. So they talk to you about the solution, and then they talk to you more about alcoholism. That's pretty cool. That's 2 full chapters. That's if you're not sure if you're powerless or not. 2 questions you ask an alcoholic. When you want to stop, can you? This is what he's done. This is what he's finished. He's given up. He's all fine. He's surrendered. You know. When you want to stop, can you? No. When you start, can you control the amount you drink? No. And I've got a little caveat I add to that, which I think is quite clever. When you start, can you control the amount you drink? When you want to stop, can you? When you start, can you guarantee when you'll finish? No chance. Once that train's left the station, it's not so. Yeah. I like that one, when that train's left the station. Maybe I should be a bit more relaxed about this and not so stressed and tense. As I try desperately to relay this message. So, possibly you don't need the first 4 chapters. Just by asking those simple questions. And of course, the beauty of it is, just to back up my claim, my assertion. Chapter 4, we agnostics. All right. So the atheist doesn't believe in nothing. The agnostics get open-minded about things, you know. That's typical, okay, open-minded. Keep the escape doors open. And they sum up the first 3 chapters. In the first paragraph, what it basically asks those questions: when you want to stop, can you? When you start, can you control the amount you drink? I'll try and read it for you. I'm not going to mind reading this. I'm really well organised. As you'll notice if you listen to any others of these things that I've got on this YouTube thing. If when you honestly want to, you find you cannot quit entirely, or if when drinking you have little control over the amount you take, you are probably alcoholic. Probably alcoholic. That's as close as they'll get to saying you're definitely alcoholic. Because they're very careful not to make such statements to you, the newcomer. Because they'll just you know. So that's it. If you can answer yes to those questions when you want to stop, can you? Sorry, answer no. I was thinking it from the other way around. When you want to stop, can you? No. When you start, can you control the amount you drink? No. Guarantee when you finish? No. Can you admit or can you accept? They don't actually ask you to accept it, because to accept it you would have to have a solution to it. So they ask you to admit that that's powerlessness. Yeah. Yeah, no problem. And I'm at the end of the road anyway, so I'm not going to argue with anybody. That was my situation. That was my situation. I was not going to argue with anybody. And so, yeah, that's it. I'm powerless. I need a power. Step 2. How do I find that power? The people who wrote the book discovered the power. Oh, yeah. Do you want to follow their path? This is typical Alki again. How long is it going to take? You're talking about saving his life, and he's asking how long it's going to take. Adult children again. But don't tell them that. They'll get really upset. Until they find out for themselves. Round about step 4 and 5. Fantastic. So there you go. In 5 minutes, I've concluded that I'm powerless. I've concluded that I need a power. And the people who wrote the book are offering me a solution to my problem. Wow. So that's it. And if, after reading the first 3 chapters, you're not sure, go try some controlled drinking. Come back when you're ready. You say that in AA to these, oh, you killed them, oh, don't say that, oh, that's terrible. You know, all these snowflakey people, you know. The people who used to lie in their own piss, you know. And then, oh, no. And obviously they don't have a program or they wouldn't be talking that way. And AA is full of them. Although young Joe tried to convince me that AA works. So he's obviously blinded by something. But it's not God. He's a theologian. He's studying theology. Couldn't make up. You see, the interesting thing, and I'm going to try and remember where I'm at with this, right? So we're at step 3. See, the interesting thing about what these guys are doing, whether it be this local Big Book study meeting or any other Big Book study meeting on the planet, if they're doing a big book study, when the directions of the book are not to do that, they're playing God. Oh dear, alarm bell's ringing. Whoa, wait a minute. Playing God. Bill and Bob, and the pioneers of this stuff, they put this book together in a year. Oh, imagine, a year. None of them had any special skills as regards that I know of. And out came this program. They've never needed to change it. In fact, the only problem they had with changing it was when Bob talked about sobriety, freedom from alcohol, to remind them, because they were changing it. He wasn't, but they were. Why are you changing it? This is it. This is how you do it. You drive your car, you follow the highway code. You don't do your own thing. Or different people don't have different interpretations. Because if we did, they'd all be killing each other. Very profound analogy, comparison. If people just decided, I'm just going to do it my way when they're driving the car, there'd be chaos, wouldn't there? And there would be deaths. And they'd go up to court and say, well, what did you do? Well, I just done it my way. Yeah, well, you do it your way and I'll do it my way. Yeah, there you go. Sent to the insane asylum. Because it is insane. And that's a very reasonable comparison to what these people are doing with this program. Changing it for the sake of changing it. Shocking. Shocking business. People are dying. And they just don't seem to hear. There's none so blind as those who will not see. I used to think it was cannot see. I said, well, of course, fucking blind. Of course, they cannot see. What are you talking about? And that was the kind of childlike interpretation, mistakes I made in interpretation by missing out one word or not recognise one word. There's none so blind as those who will not see. Yeah. A young Joe he will not see. And yet he claims to be doing God's work. Yet it's obvious that he's doing the exact opposite. And I suppose in his faith, that'd be the ultimate sin. To start playing God against God. And whoa. Good luck with that one, pal. Anyway. So you make a decision. Am I going to do it? Am I not going to do it? Yes, I'm going to do it. Right, fine. And how it works, chapter 5. Wonderful chapter. And page 59. I used to know this off by heart and tried out. They don't use me much because I've been stuck up the shelf for the past, God knows what. Certainly at least 10 years. Oh yeah, no, 15 years. And it seems that's what happens. That's what happens. Maybe it's becoming fashionable or whatever. But here we are. Well, chapter 5, how it works. I've accepted the invitation. Now they're going to explain to me how it works. And these are the people who wrote the book. And they're speaking for themselves. They don't speak for anybody else. They don't speak for anybody else. Until such times as you take up the invitation. Then they've got to tell you what to do, obviously. I'd like you to teach me how to drive. What do you want me to do? I want you to teach me. I want you to instruct me. Tell me what to do. All right, sounds fair enough. Because if you don't, I won't learn how to drive. All right, we've got that clear. In the simplest possible fashion. Page 59. There's the steps there. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol. Our lives had become unmanageable. Yeah, done that. No problem. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Came to believe. You don't come to believe right there and then step 2 when I talk to me step 2. But by going through this process, you will come to believe. And they're talking for themselves here. Made a decision. Who did they did? That's the other one. I like this. Before I forget that. 12 steps, 12 statements of fact based on the experience of the people who wrote the book. And every step begs a question. How did they do it? And every question is answered in the first 103 pages of the book. And if it didn't, it'd be totally pointless. Totally pointless. They're asking questions and they're answering questions. They're asking you questions. So at step 3, made the decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. We've got a basic understanding of Him through chapter 4, unless you possibly already got a basic understanding anyway, through my Catholic education or whatever. So there's no excuses for anybody in this. There's no excuses. Unless you've got some obscure religion or whatever. I don't know about Muslims. I don't think I've ever taken a Muslim through this program. For perfectly understandable reasons. But that's their business. Step 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Further over, page 60, whatever. Yeah, that's page 60, 65. Gives you an example of how they make out this list of people in your searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Moral, looking for the truth. Okay, fine. And then lay that out, page 65. You write down 3 columns, page A4 page. I'm resentful at Mr. Brown because his attention to my wife told my wife I was a mistress. Brown may get my job at the office. Oh, not good. Affects my sex relations, my self-esteem, brackets here, sex relations, self-esteem. Just make of it what you will. I did bring in 3 different examples. I used the one example, the one major example. I would have said, okay, I resentful of Brown because he told my wife I'm my mistress. The other stuff would have paled in the insignificance. And that's the way I done it. It cuts down on all the rain. So, you lay out the page, 3 columns. A line down the left-hand side, a couple of inches in. A line down the right-hand side, a couple of inches in the centre column. Across the top, you write in the box, I resent for that. The centre, you write down the cause. And the right-hand side, affects me. You then go down 5 lines, say. Probably 5 lines here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Go down 5 lines, draw a line across. So that's your dealings with the first person, my mother. Right. So that would be the first 5. You're not writing a short story, you're just writing little trigger words to remind you when you're discussing it with a man after you've completed it. And also, if you start doing it across the way, by the time you're halfway down the page, something comes up that reminds you of something that happened earlier on the page. So you're back and you start editing it. And before you know it, you've got lines and crosses, you just crumple up, chuck it away and go for a drink. So we're not wanting to frustrate you, upset you. So just write down the first column, all the people that you resent. When you have to think about it, you finish. It should come automatically. And, that's cool. And then you write down the causes. Then you write down what part of you is affected by. That's cool. You then have to, it's interesting. We went back through our lives, nothing counted but thoroughness and honesty. When we were finished, we considered it carefully. With the man. The man's with you. And I won't go any further into that because you can read that for yourself. You also make a list, similar list, regarding principles in life that you don't like and institutions in life that you don't like. Yeah, the same process, same style. And what you've done, which doesn't take particularly long when you listen to some of the people in AA talking about doing weeks and months at it, in actual fact, the funny thing was, I was at the man's house. I was sitting in the little outhouse and perfectly private. And I think I finished at about 4 o'clock. Started about 10 or 11. So I'd done about 4 or 5 hours on it. But I didn't think that was enough because I'd been told it takes so long and it's so difficult and it's all this. And when I just started stalling a wee bit, and just holding back, just waiting till a reasonable time. I think I waited till about 6 o'clock, because I was full of fear. And I was frightened that the man might sack me. Because anybody who's doing anything good for me, I always sabotaged it. Because I could handle it. I can handle sabotage, but I can't handle you being nice to me or helpful towards me. Which is very sad. Very sad. Come up quite clearly in my step 4 and 5. That's why I was doing this. Which was a great relief. And if I can meet nice people, I will quite definitely go and make amends to them. Because very few of the people I had down my list was I able to go and make direct amends to. Very few. But still quite a few, to be fair. So yeah, there you go. Well, you get your 3 columns. You get 3 columns for your things in life that you don't like. What were they called again? Principles, yeah. Yeah, and institutions. So you haven't done that. You sit down and you discuss it with the man. And he cuts through all the crap. Yeah. The famous but. But if he had, we're taking your inventory, Tom. We're not taking his inventory. As it says back in the page behind, setting aside the wrongs of others. We rigorously look for our part. I like that bit as well. And selfish. Selfishness. Specific type of selfishness. Self-centeredness. Right. I liked that as well. Mhm. I like the step 3 prayer as well. And I can remember it when I put my mind to it. God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and to do with me as I will. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. And we're asking for God to guide us through this so that we'll be able to then go out and help others. That's very nice. I like that. I like that. So there you are. We discuss it with a man. He cuts through all the nonsense, all the rationalisation and justification, you know. And that was very powerful because it showed me things. So it showed me the most important thing there for me in the simpler terms, because I was still a child. I was 40 years of age. And I'm 67, so there, 27. Beat you to it. 27 years. And yeah, and just like a child, I'd be making up all sorts of excuses for myself because I would get into trouble, you know, to do it. Some of it, was totally pathetic and totally insulting to people. It's rather surprising they just walked away. Just no point out there, especially football. I had great ambitions as a footballer. Unrealistic because I had the mind of a child. That upsets me. That upsets me. I reached a reasonable standard, but if it wasn't for this illness, this spiritual malady, I could have done really well. I could have done really. My cousin Pat, God rest him, he done well, relatively speaking. I think he done well, and he was a great pal to me. We didn't spend that much time together, but if I ever needed help, he was always there. He was always there. And I just love thinking about. And another good thing, and this is about me, my ex-wife. They were, I don't know, they were at some celebration of some sort, and her uncle's sons were there who had died. There was MS or something like that. They had some sort of motor neuron type disease, and they were saying to them how much they respected and how grateful they were to me because I used to go around because I had nothing else to do. I used to go around and sit and talk with them, spend time with them, and he must have been saying how much he enjoyed it. And then it's coming back 40 years later or whatever, how much they like me and respect me for that. Wow, that blew me away. And she didn't have to do it because she still resents me, but she did. I thought I'd have to get that one in before it. That's the joy of recovery. The joy of recovery. Right, I've been distracted there, haven't I? So we're cutting through all the rubbish and we're getting down to it and who's responsible for what, who acted towards me and who reacted towards me. The ones who acted towards me, we've already sorted them out and we're going to have to try and pray for them. You know, ask for a bit of help. Step 6 or 7 covers that. But the yeah, the ones who reacted towards me. This is where I'm getting it now. This is important. This is big. And I'm talking to the man about it. And we're looking at his name and saying, right, who's that? Did he act towards you? Did he react towards you? And the more I discovered about people reacting towards me and seeing what I'd done, because I never knew, because they never told me. They just walk away from me. And I'd be wondering what happened there. and then I'd get drunk and forget about it. And it's quite shocking and quite a revelation. It was a spiritual experience. It just blew me out of the water. Wow. Because I now knew the difference. That's your stuff and this is my stuff. I've never known that before. This is remarkable. Truly remarkable. Have a look at my fearfulness. Not fear, but fearfulness. And we discussed that. And there was nothing major in that, Frightened of flying. Frightened of rabid dogs. Frightened of getting buried alive. All these most people identify with that kind of neurotic fear. I said, right, okay, friend. Don't say neurotic about being frightened of flying. Still don't care what you say. If it crashes, you're dead, and that's it. I'd rather drive to the south of France and fly than I would, believe it or not. Because I quite enjoy driving. Yeah. It's a battle between me and the rest of the drivers. It's a competition. I'm typical alcoholic. Imagine driving to the south of France with an alcoholic. Jesus, Johnny Macaroni. You'd be a nervous wreck. And I know that. I do know that. And here's another reminder of an awakening that I got from my second sponsor, who was just as bad as the first, but for different reasons. But he opened my eyes once. And by the way, I was a driving instructor at the time. I think, yeah. Yeah, I phoned him. He told me he wouldn't phone me. I immediately got a hold with that. Rejected. Got a reason to talk. But I think I phoned him. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He said, you sound a bit annoyed, John. I said, well, now you mention it, I am. What happened? He says, well, this is at 4:00 in the afternoon. He says, well, I was taking the kids to school this morning, 9:00. And this guy cut me up. He said, he did cut you up, John. Yes, he did. Obviously didn't hear me. Yeah, he cut me up. I said, no, yeah, I heard you. No, he didn't cut you up, John. What do you mean? What are you talking about? You weren't there. He says, he cut a car up, John. He didn't know you were driving it. Bang. Blew me away. Wow. I never ever saw it from that point of view. He could have been rushing up to the hospital. His wife could be in labour. His parents could be ill. Seriously ill. Or he could just be bad tempered and nasty. And impatient. Late for his last warning at work. I'd never considered any of that stuff. It was always the worst case scenario. He done it to me. He doesn't know you, John. That just illustrates to you, the discerning listener, just how childlike I was. I should chase after him, slam the brakes on and throw the car about. The kids thought it was great. My ex-wife, second wife, she was just sitting there holding on tight. I don't think she ever complained. Maybe on an odd occasion. I wouldn't have got into the car with me, but there she was. Just didn't complain. Poor wee soul, the wee victim. Yeah, that's another story. Yeah, nothing more poisonous than a victim. Yeah, right, so I was getting a wee bit taken away with myself there. So the fear thing, right, okay, and the sexual conduct and how to deal with that, and be very careful with that, and you find out just making amends. So where am I at now? Step 4, step 5. Fears, sexual conduct, right, no problem. Right. Step 6, hey, quick, step 6. I like this, page 76, I think it is. 75. And I like it because it's the beginning of into big stuff. This is his brand new edition, so I'm not sure. So I'm not exactly sure from where the pages are nowadays. I'm one of the old school. Look, see, yeah, we're getting onto it now. So if we can answer to our satisfaction the step 4 and 5 questions I asked. Page 76, the top of page 76. This is brilliant. Four steps in this. Or 3 and the beginning of the 4th. We then look at step 6. Look at step 6. You've got your average AA meeting, they talk about practicing these steps every day. Which is, it's like a life sentence. How many newcomers listen to that, go to a meeting, hear that, and walk out and never come back? Never come back. Because they're practicing, they've got to practice 12 steps every day. Truly shocking. And these poor souls who walk away, they don't register a complaint or whatever. You know, they just walk away. God knows what happens to them. And that's after getting up the courage or whatever to go to an AA meeting and to be seriously let down. Unbelievable. So if we can answer to our satisfaction regarding these resentments and such stuff, we then look at step 6. We have emphasised willingness as being indispensable. Are we now ready to let God remove from us all these things which we have admitted are objectionable? Can He take them all now? Everyone. If we still cling to something we will not let go, we ask God to help us be willing. If we still cling to something that we won't let go. Fact. There's understandable resentments. There's justifiable resentments. Pretty obvious in many respects. Somebody does something bad to one of your kids, or somebody beats up one of your kids, or somebody robs your wife of her purse, or something like that. You know, basic, simple things of life which cause quite a lot of concern and damage. And somebody steals your car. And that's minimal. Some of it's really heavy stuff. Really heavy stuff. And this is the example that I can give you. A wee woman came to see one of her counsellors wasn't getting anywhere with her. So he gave her my phone number. I knew this guy. And he gave her my phone number. And she came up to the house. So we got to step 4, as you know, no problem, you know. And she had that recent relapse. And at one point, when we were talking about resentments and not letting go of things, you know, she started crying. I thought, for Christ's sake, what have I done here? Sorry, Lord. And I says, why are you crying? She says, well, my last sponsor told me that I had to make amends to everybody that I resented. I said, yeah. Well, he told me that I had to make amends to my dad who sexually assaulted me because I resented him. And I thought, and how did you feel about that? She said, well, I wasn't happy. I said, no, you did right. You weren't happy. She said, because we've got all this Secret Santa stuff going on with these so-called disgraceful sponsor type people. It's between you and I now. Don't go any further. It's like abuse. It's like it's like these predators. These predators, you know. I've got another story about sponsor type people again. There's this guy who lives not too far away or whatever, local, does mainly CA meets. His name's Paul. And he is holier than thou. and he goes to all the world things, and blah, blah, blah. And he knows a thing. He knows everything. He's got an answer for everything. And recently, on one of those Skype meetings or Zoom, he said that, yeah, sometimes people come up to me and say, "Why are you so happy, Paul?" And you feel they're being uh, defecate, as they say in Pink Floyd. Just sickening. But he gets away with it. And I challenged him. Can't remember what I challenged him about, but I was right. Goes without saying. So I put together my little nickname for him, just to put him down. Well, you shouldn't be doing that, John. Yes, you should. Sometimes you have to rub their nose in it. You know, why do people? Why are you so happy, Paul? You know? So I nicknamed him. What did I nickname St. Paul and his followers, his apostles, and he cancelled the meeting. He said it was getting too contentious and too. You couldn't make these people up. If you're going to have any contention, any argument, any debate, you'll have it in an AA meeting, especially if there's no program. Because that's the very nature of alcoholics. They will argue black as white just so they can have an argument. One thing they won't do is agree. Why are you so happy, Bob? And he couldn't see it either. But the next day, he and his gang cancelled the meeting, which wasn't clever. It was getting too controversial. Of course, it's controversial, you fool. The whole thing's controversial. And, well, you never know the harm that people say I'm a troublemaker. Lots of people say the opposite. Lots of people say he talks the truth and he speaks his mind and he doesn't play along with all the rubbish and seriously respected guy. Well, there you go. I'd wish they'd come to some of the meetings I go to. Brought back up. But anyway, got distracted there again. See, keep getting distracted. So we're at 6 and 7. Hey, 6 and 7. You've got problems, you've got step 7 prayer. And just read that out on a daily basis until it passes or the solution comes to you. But don't let it stop you carrying on. Now we need more action, without which faith without works is dead. Let's look at steps 8 and 9. Look again. They're not doing that. Let's look. Steps 8 and 9. Step 8. We have a list of all persons we have harmed and whom we are willing to make amends. We made it when we took inventory. How many people in AA are on step 8 are making a list of people I've harmed? You should already have the list. What? Well, if you're doing it properly, you should have a list from your step 4. Oh, my sponsor says this, my sponsor. Your sponsor's wrong. Get rid of your sponsor. Find somebody who knows what they're talking about. Find somebody who knows that everything they tell you to do, they can point it out to you in the book. The way I've just done with step 8. You've got a list. You made it when you took inventory. Another example of these psychopaths who go about these rooms and not read the book. Getting the program through some crazy sponsor and then adding to it, because you always add your own little bit, don't you? Glamorising it or whatever. Fabricated. And that's how AA ends up in the state it's in, gradually getting twisted and turned, and diluted. Because my sponsor says this, and I believe my sponsor. My sponsor went on holiday and I didn't know what to do. God, talk about needy. It's about freedom. It's not about being hanging on to somebody for dear life. My sponsor is my best friend. Yeah. Shocking. So we have to then start talking about going out and making direct amends to these people that we've got on our list. And we discussed that with a man. Maybe write it down, privacy of our own house, write it down, this or that, and then go to the man with it. And he might see some flaws there and whatever else. Maybe you could write it in a slightly different way or word it in a slightly different way and point out to you why. And of course, what I found about that was I was more open to it now because step 4 and 5 is just a classic, total spiritual experience. I was able to see things and I was able to take words in and put them in the correct place and make absolute sense of something that was going on. It was just astonishing. But all I can say is, you've got to try it. Don't knock it till you've tried it. They go on for quite some time with this step 9 thing. So it's pretty important stuff about the people we've hurt and damaged. And it's worth having a good read. It's worth having a good read. But then it brings us through to this thought brings us to step 10. Which thought? The promises. Oh, magic promises. I used to go to a meeting where they read out the promises, and in one ear and out the other, except for one. We will intuitively know how to handle things that used to baffle us. I caught on to that for some reason. I used to go to this meeting every week because they read out the promises at this meeting, simply so as I could hear that. I didn't know what intuitive meant. Didn't even think to go home and look it up. I just liked it. Wow. We'll intuitively know how to handle things that used to baffle us. Intuitive. Do it without thinking. Ride the bike. Drive your car. Yeah. Mirror signal maneuver, don't even think about it. Done. Wow. These are the promises. This is what you can look forward to. Because we've now got to the end of step 9. And you're now ready for 10 and 11 on a daily basis. Well, that's all you practice on a daily basis. It says in the book. Follow the instructions. I keep getting reminded of people. Follow the instructions. There's a wee guy who lives out Chelmsford way, out towards the coast. Quite nice area. And Laurie, his name is. And he claims to be 30 odd years sober. And I went to a meeting once and he was at it. And he doesn't like me. Didn't like me. Come across him a few times and he always come back angry, cross-sharing and being sometimes quite rude. And anyway, I'm at this meeting. I've got a bad back, all that stuff. So kind of under pressure most times. How much of the painkillers influencing me? I've kind of controlled them today, so maybe that's why I'm a bit less hesitant. You might have noticed a bit of hesitancy in what I'm saying, but previous ones has been quite bad actually. And who's just doddery old fool, that sort of thing. Hope I've caught your attention. Anyway, old Laurie. I come back and I'm sharing. Never been to the meeting before. And I talk about it being a book of instructions. And old Laurie said, it's rubbish. But I've had a few run-ins with this guy. And I don't let him bully me. I said, did you want to say something? So it's a book of suggestions. Oh yeah. And I was quite ill. The secretary came in and sorted things out. And I thought, I can't be bothered with this. I was the lion's den, So off I hobbled. But of course I thought about it. And I thought the best retort to that would have been, the simplest. Yeah, it's a book of suggestions. You're quite right, Laurie, and I forgive me. But the question is, what is it suggesting? Gotcha. It's suggesting that you follow the clear-cut, precise instructions. Instructions. So it is a book of instructions. Yes. And if Laurie doesn't listen to one of these, which I seriously doubt he will, I'll have to wait till the next time I see him. Thankfully, that's once every 2 or 3 years. But I won't forget. I won't forget. Because he's a bully. That's why. He's a man of words. He's a newspaper guy. And he knows, and as soon as I say what I say, he knows he should go and look at it. But it's not nice. God knows how many people he's tried to sponsor. Wise old sage that he is, talking complete utter rubbish. But anyway, I'm getting away from it. I'm getting away from it. So here we are with these 9 steps, and we've taken them. That's right. I get distracted with the promises. Yeah. Intuitive. Wow. Yeah. This thought brings us to step 10. Read it. Step 10. You're now taking a personal inventory. Any business that doesn't take inventory goes bust. Even I could understand that at the time. I thought, yeah, that's right. Because if you don't change and check what you're selling and what you're not selling, you'll end up with shelves full of stuff that you're not selling. And the other stuff, you won't make any money, you go bust. I could get that analogy. So there you go. So I have to take personal inventory. The man told me, do it the same way as you've done your step 4. Yeah, that's pretty reasonable. 100%. Cause effects. My mistake. Part of my fault. Who have I harmed? Wow. That's pretty cool. Pretty straightforward. And I'm pretty well practiced in it after the marathon of step 4, which wasn't the marathon, comparably speaking. It was done that afternoon. Oh, you can't do it this afternoon. Oh, no. Don't know what you're doing. Oh, and here's wee Jimmy, wee Scottish Jimmy. He's another one, Letchworth Jimmy. He's 30 odd years old as well. So he claims. Total bump-up. Off his nut. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, the express train to heaven. Yeah. Microwave recovery. All right, Jimmy. What do you mean by that? Odious little man. Odious little man. And yet they have him on the committee for picking the chairs. At this meeting. You couldn't. There's the secretary, whom I asked, why haven't you asked me to do a chair? Which is quite right. Because I know what I'm talking about, and I should be doing a chair. And I says, well, I don't make the decisions myself. We've got a committee. So who's on the committee? And he kind of thought about it. And then, well, I'm not really able to talk about it or whatever. He couldn't come away with that one. He says, well, it's Bob, the man who took you through the programme. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he did. Even though he tried to kill me with a big study, which he still hasn't forgiven me for. I don't hold any grudge against that, but it's the correct thing to do. But then there's wee Jimmy. Oh, I see. So that's why I don't. Yeah, he was saying nothing, you know. And here's this little monster, and he's sitting there deciding. And the guy who took me through the program, Bob, he's sitting and having this discussion with him when the guy is not in the least bit qualified to to be involved in any decision about anybody who does a chair. We do chairs over in this country. I don't know if you do the same. Well, they sit and talk about everything but the programme, and then thank you very much. And that's it. Is that it? Yeah, that's it. Trunkologues, I think they call them. Yeah. So I get slightly distracted there with that wee Jimmy character. He came to our Tuesday meeting Tuesday meeting, 1 o'clock, Luton. If you're ever in the London area, try and make it. It's a topic discussion meeting, which is suggested and recommended by AA. They have specific and suggested topics, 200 in order. You get them on the internet. Or even that they've modernised those as well, to include mental health. No, we don't talk about mental health. We don't know nothing about mental health. We know about alcoholism. We know about powerlessness. We know about power greater ourselves. We know about doing inventories. But we don't know about that stuff, mental health. But it's in this list. But that's what they were talking about. That's what Bill W. was talking about when sobriety, freedom from alcohol, through the practice and teachings of the 12-step recovery program, is the sole purpose of an AA meeting. And here's a little helper for you. And we just sit down and we discuss them to whatever degree. We end up just having a discussion. Right, let's talk about this. Have a discussion. Right, let's talk about this. Remarkable we meet. We as Scottish are small. Remarkable meet. But yeah, Jimmy and one of his sidekicks, one of his deputies, one of his sponsors, decided to come to the meeting. They were closing it down. What? We've got to close this meeting down. Yeah, well, it's causing a lot of problems. Why? It started getting a bit heated, and Jimmy was wanting to start throwing his weight about. He's about 4'9". He's a Glasgow hard man. Some of you people have never heard of a Glasgow hard man. Well, they're just nasty little people who generally end up alcoholics. But the funny thing was about it, the secretary of the meeting. Can't remember her name. So long since I've seen her. It's lockdown. Jenny. She's a wee fat dumpy woman. She worked in the bar for 20 years. So she knew how to deal with people like Jimmy. And she dealt with them. And swung them out the door and don't come back. And that was truly remarkable. He was convinced and he convinced his deputy, who no doubt was a sponsor of his, to come along. He tried to have a go at me, which was quite laughable. But when he started throwing punches, you have to think, wait a minute. This is an AA meet with a guy who claims to be 30 odd years sober and who has actually absolutely no shame, because every opportunity I get, I remind him of it. And he still hasn't worked it out, because he believes that that's the express train to heaven and microwave recovery. Very, very sick individual. Some people might say, maybe you shouldn't be talking about this, John, but there's people who might be listening to this who are on the edge and whatever, and they would think, yeah, I know people like that. And I'm glad it's not just in my mind, because most of them don't complain. But here's this guy pointing them out. He's pulling them out. Right, so it's not me. No, it is not you. Thank goodness for that. And if you'd been listening to me earlier, you'd have seen just how eloquent I was in leading you through the book, which contains the first 9 steps. Wow. To all intents and purposes, you have recovered. As long as you maintain your spiritual condition, because you now have a spiritual condition. Why? Because you're in spirit. All right, in spirit. Inspired. Definitely. Definitely inspired. I didn't know where I was driving when I drove home that night. Could have ended up in Scotland. I live in North London. Could have ended up anywhere. That's how blown away I was by it. So, there we go. Step 10, continue to take inventory. Use the same method of inventory as you did in step 4. It's now a personal inventory. You're looking for the truth. Any business that doesn't take inventory goes bust. Simple fact. So don't skip on it. I skipped on it at the beginning. I don't know why I managed to pick up on it. I've got a book up there, folder, going back to 1977. 1997? And if I need picking up, if I'm a bit down or whatever, just have to read all my gratitudes from that. Just have to read all my gratitudes, and that will lift me because some remarkable, some remarkable stuff has happened in my time in my recovery, and especially in the early days with my daughters because they were only little. They didn't know me as a drunk, thankfully. Thankfully, only a couple of times, and it made them. I was funny. They made them laugh, so they escaped that. Didn't escape my mother, but I'm beginning to lose my voice a wee bit. Excuse me. Uh, yeah. So there you go. Taking personal inventory now. Laid out the same way as your step 4 inventory, your moral inventory, looking for the truth. It's now personal. Yeah. And that's the best way to do it. Keep it in the ring folder and reinforcing the ring so they don't tear. You end up with pages all over the place. Put the ring reinforcers on. Keep it tidy because you'll have it for years. As I say, especially gratitude. Well, what am I grateful for? Grateful for a higher power in my life, God. I'm grateful for most of my health. I'm grateful for the fact that I can still get about and I'm not exactly crippled. And I'm grateful for a roof over my head. I can still do and earn a bit of money as a taxi driver, working part time. I always get remarkable fares. I don't know why. I work about 5 hours just to keep the car on the road, so I can go and carry the message to these poor wee alcoholics. And don't know why I go into that. Why did I go into that? The work and stuff. And I don't know. Completely gone. Step for a hint. So yeah, that's it. I'm taking this inventory, and it's laid out the same way, nice and simple. And I go to bed with a gratitude list. That's right. I'm grateful for God. I'm grateful for my health, what's left of it. I'm grateful for a roof over my head. I'm grateful for the ability to earn money. I'm grateful for the fact that I've got a reasonably healthy bank balance for some bizarre reason. I'm not exactly sure why. 6 years ago, was it 6 years ago? I was living in a caravan and I was skint. Now I've got a camper van. I've got a super duper Jaguar for you car freaks. A 4 litre supercharged. Oh, XJR flying machine. Makes my legs wobble. I go out sometimes on the Joe carriageway in the early hours of the morning and take a fly down it. And I get out the car and my legs are shaking. Keeps me alive, keeps me awake. Wow. So I've got that and I'm grateful for that. And I've got my little car that I use for taxiing. And I was grateful I was able to go and spend 4,000 quid on that last year. And it's just amazing. Just absolutely amazing. Uh, I've actually came to the conclusion that my money is breeding. I just do it when I'm not looking. I was born a pauper. I was born into pauperishness. I was born into abuse. Named John, alcoholic, born in Glasgow, no choice no matter. Born to two people who should not have had children, no choice no matter. Brought up in such a way that put in place the necessary ingredients for this disgusting illness. I was full of fear, I was full of resentment, and I had no self esteem. Never mind self worth. Not guilty, Your Honour. No chance. And that's set in motion for this illness. Hey, I'm glad I got that one in. Forgot about that. Not guilty. None of us are guilty. We never asked for this. We didn't even know we were getting it. You know, I didn't know. You're right. And I didn't know I didn't know. That sounds interesting. What's a bit of a puzzle, that, isn't it? I'd go out and I'd get drunk and I'd come back in. The wife would give me a shout in the ball and rah 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 rah, and I'd wake up in the morning and I'd deny everything because I didn't know. When I didn't know, I didn't know, so it didn't happen. So she was making it up and she was just twisting the horrible towards me, putting me victim me again. It's amazing how it works. It's amazing how it works. Am I rabbiting on? I don't really know how long. About an hour 50. That's quite long, actually. It's generally about an hour. Oh, there you go. So hopefully it's worthwhile. Hopefully it's worthwhile because eventually, step 10 and 11, sort through prayer and meditation. Prayer and meditation. To improve our conscious contact with God as we understood God at that time. Improve our conscious contact with God. Prayer is prayer. Meditation. I was a bit worried about that because I thought it was another ho hum and all the bouncing up and down the mattresses and all that stuff. And I went to a meeting, a meditation meeting. God, you've seen anything so boring in your life. It's unbelievable. And I told them. I took their inventory, I did. No idea me. Meditation, in its simplest form, to think deeply. Yeah, I'm good at that. Yeah, yeah, aren't you? Yeah. You're good at thinking deeply about the negatives. Yeah, that's right. That's all I think about. When I think deeply, I'm thinking about negative stuff. Now it's changed, pal. You can now start thinking deeply about positive stuff. Sort through prayer and meditation. Positive stuff. To improve our conscious contact with God as we understood. Praying only for knowledge of His will for us. And the power to carry that out. Excuse me. Step 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as the result, not just any result, the specific result of these steps, we practice these principles and try and carry the message to still suffering alcoholic. And that might be right, actually. Or maybe I've got that almost wordie for wordie. But anyway, that's it. That's it. That's how simple it is. And it's all within 80 minutes, 77 minutes. I've explained the most powerful program on this planet, the most powerful example of the existence of God on this planet. And I've explained it to you in less than 80 minutes. You know what I love about the whole thing? Get back to young Joel or Jules or whatever his name is. And these ignoramuses, ignorant people, who are killing people with their. It's I had another one of those little jogs of the memory there. Can't remember what it was. It's quite good. So that's it done. You've now got. You've now recovered, as long as you maintain your spiritual condition. And you practice step 10, 12 by just living your life as dictated by the program. You practice 10 and 11 until it becomes intuitive. Thus, you have recovered. Wow. Is that good or what? And actually got it within 2 hours. And you could refer everything on the book. Say, yep, he's right there. Yep, he's right there. Yep. And some interesting stories. Yeah. I remember when I first came away from the man's house with this stuff and totally blown away. I hadn't a clue really what happened. I wasn't getting any help from my ex-wife because she was very sick with women who I only realised by getting well myself, just how sick she was. And that's sinister and sad, and it affected my children. But yeah, I remember the man saying to me, I went back to my local meetings full of all this stuff with this book and this folder I had. And I was in the rooms, banging on about it, And they were all calling me names. And yeah, right, so I keep coming back, yeah. Member of the God Squad, yeah. Step Nazi, that really stung. Imagine anybody with a programme using that terminology, step Nazi. And that's what the man said to me. I went back to him. I was really upset. And he pointed it out to me. That's a really nasty thing to say. Because to me, Nazis and all that stuff is just, okay, that's history, that happened. Don't bother about it. Don't think about it. The denial of it and all that stuff. But I wasn't into the denial stuff anymore. And what the man said to me, that's a really horrible thing to say. That's not nice. And what kind of program are these people practicing? But he also said, the problem is, John, if you taught this program in those rooms 27 years ago, you'll end up drinking coffee on your own. And I thought, don't be silly. It's the truest thing that's ever been said to me. Because here I am 27 years down the line, and I'm having to deal with misguided fools like Jules and all the others in the rooms. Nobody likes me. I don't make friends. Every now and again somebody says hello. Every now and again, quite pleasantly, people come up to me and say, thanks for what you said. I really appreciated what you had to say. That happens. Not regularly, but reasonably. I really appreciate it. It's really, really nice. And yeah, I think I do need it. Because most people get to my stage where, after the 2 days with a man and walking away, wow, blown away, they don't go back to you. And I remember wee Terry, little Terry, a little bricklayer. I took him through the programme, and we became quite close, quite friendly. And he said, I said, right, there you go. Hey, how's it doing with all this message carrying and all that? He says, I don't. I said, what do you mean you don't? I said, I'm not going to be treated the way you're treated, John. Because he'd heard them all, when he was in the sickness. He'd heard all they were saying about me and all this nasty stuff. And then he got well. He wasn't going to put himself up for that. But then I was putting myself up for it. And that's gone back easy 20 years. Easy 20 years. And it's not improved any. It's not improved any. I'm sure there's a lot of people, they're doing a step 10 or whatever, get reminded of me in a positive way. And that's nice. But they don't phone. So it's a lonely business. And I understand it. I understand why marriages break down, because you change. And she's no longer got the reasons that she needed. You're not giving her the ammunition or whatever to help her continue in her sickness. So she'll sabotage it. He'll sabotage it. She or he. And that's very sad. It's very sad indeed. But also, even people out and about, you can't have a conversation with them. Because you can't have a conversation about what's wrong with the world, or what's wrong with the planet. And it all goes back to childhood. And, you're the type of person who blames your parents. No, it's not about blame. It's about who's responsible for what. Big difference. And they don't want to. They're on a mile from it. So you don't make any friends outside either. I've some fascinating conversations in my taxi. Some truly fascinating. I think that's why quite a few of them keep coming back. Because they enjoy the conversation so much. And that's remarkable. That's remarkable. Some other times you make mistakes, or that you put yourself out in a limb and you get hurt, and you've got the program to fall back on. And it's just truly remarkable. Don't take my word for it. Go and do it. follow the clear-cut, precise instructions in the book. If you've any problems, drop me a line. It's there. You can do it. No excuses. And the miracle of the 20th century. I go back to the very beginning of this, about people coming up with their own ways of doing things. It's like people saying you can change the Bible every now and then. Well, they do that, don't they? They've got all sorts of different versions of the Bible, and like Quran is just insane. Just, forgive me, but it's totally insane. And it doesn't make any sense. The best comparison I've got is the highway code. The highway code is consistent because it has to be. It cannot be open to interpretation because it could cost lives. And it's the exact same with this program. So nobody studies, nobody says, and Bill W. and the rest of the pioneers never at any time did they ever make any comment and mention of studying the book. All they talked about was clear-cut, precise instructions. And it doesn't need changing. It doesn't need changing. Never will need changing. Never will. And never it should be. Oh, yeah. I think I've covered everything now. Not a bad performance, really. For a doddery old man. Maybe I have to lay off those painkillers a wee bit more. But this is me reasonably clear, by the way. If you're wondering what I must be like. Yeah, gotta laugh. If I could get my health back, my mobility back, that would be good. Because I could afford to go and travel now. So I could go to some certain places that touch my imagination. And that'd be nice. Went on some good holidays with my children when they were little. Toured the Mediterranean, Italy, Rome, Sistine Chapel, Venice, Paris, Disneyland, the museum in Paris. What's the name of that museum where that painting is of that Mona Lisa? Louvre. Louvre. You like the Louvre. And I had great fun on that. I think we had a trailer tent. I bought it for 250 quid and sold it for 450. Not bad, having done, oh God knows how many miles. It's just astonishing. And I was just like a kid. I was there with the kids and hey, it's fantastic. The wife, no, she wasn't happy. That's not what she thought. There wasn't a holiday touring about. She wanted to sit on the beach and get a suntan. Whereas I wanted to go to the Sistine Chapel. And so did the kids. They enjoyed it. And a trip on a gondola in Venice. Although, because I was a cheapskate, we didn't get the full. And yeah. But I got to sing just one cornetto as my daughter scrambled to shut me up. Because I all had it on the wee camcorder. It was all fancy. It was all, hey, this is. I would never have had a camcorder. I'd never have been able to afford to go on this holiday, which I think lasted for 4 weeks, at least 3. I think we'd done 3,000 miles travelling through in all the different places that we went to. And just a remarkable holiday. And set the kids up well for their growing up and their, don't know, what would you call it? I don't know. Anyway, their experience and expanding their minds and being able to say to their pals in any type of conversation, well, yeah, I've been there. Yeah, we went there. Yeah, did we go there? Yeah, we did, yeah. And we'd done another one which wasn't quite so successful because the bloody thing broke down. I bought a camper van by this time. We were still home because we had breakdown insurance. I'd never have had that before, but I had it then. So we got home. But we drove down the west coast of France. Then we drove across the top of Spain over to Barcelona. Wandered about there and then drove up towards Paris, which is where it broke down. And remarkable. All the things that I was able to achieve in sobriety. And here I am, 27 years down the line. My health is pretty bad, but it's getting better. But it's a back problem, it's a disc. Any of you have had the disc problem will know what I'm talking about. I was laid up for at least 2 years, could hardly move. Every move was searing pain. Yeah. You can hear the little angels singing in the background. feeling sorry for myself. And of course, by virtue of the fact that nobody wants to hear and talk about anything because you're all whatever you are, you end up on your own in more ways than one, not just in AA, you end up on your own in life. And maybe if I move back to Glasgow, I've got a few grandchildren up there. My son, my surviving son, is still up there. We don't talk, but I don't think he particularly resents me. I've made amends. And he seems to be okay. His mother's off her nut. Recently had a clash with her and how I was to blame for everything. And some of spiteful in that state. I was able to point that out to her. So needless to say, she's not phoning me back because they don't want, that's the way they are. This is the way I am. And I'm not going to change it. Even though it'll do me good, I'm not going to change it. So you certainly run out of people to talk to. And it's sad. But that's the way of it. I try to, treat others as you'd like them to treat you. That's the motto. That's the mantra. That's the one commandment that covers everything. Whether you're Catholic, Protestant, Hindu, Muslim, whatever. Just treat others the way you would like them to treat you. And I try to do that on a daily basis, and I'm pretty successful at it. While struggling to become assertive. I'm still practicing that one. I'm getting quite good at that. And ultimately, each day becomes an adventure. So that when I sit down and do my inventory, which I've kind of neglected over the past few weeks, I do it on the phone, the recorder. And, but there's enough on there to be getting on with. So I'm now beginning to ramble if I haven't already been rambling. I'm aware of the fact that my accent can make life a bit difficult for anybody who's listening. Just have to try a bit harder. But there you go. It's got me my boredom and something positive done. And if you hear what I'm saying, then fantastic. And if you don't, just ignore me. Do us all a favour. And if you get any questions, hey, I'm welcome to discuss anything. But there's a lot to be going on about there, especially with this big book study stuff they talk about, and all of these people who are playing God. I mean, God obviously inspired, higher power, whatever, inspired these good people, these pioneers, and they didn't feel the need for it. So if these people do feel the need for it, then they're up against it with the pioneers. You don't need to attend to it, and you don't need to study it. Just get them through it. So there you go. Stick out your pipe and smoke it. Have a good life. Bye bye.